temperatures that day were below freezing. By midnight at night, they had to be close to 0 degrees. The sky was black. The air was white. The snow was blowing blizzard-like conditions backwards and forwards. This was President's Day weekend, 2007. My daughter was a freshman in college for campuses in Indiana. She was traveling home to the western suburbs for a long weekend. She knew the route well, travel west on I-80, pick up 294 north, I-88 west out to the western suburbs. She was very concentrated on the road as the conditions were terrible. She got off of Route 80, she was traveling for quite a while until she realized, I'm not on I-294 north. I don't even know if I'm going north. She was lost. Her dad had bought her GPS system though. Turned that on. The weather was bad. All it would tell her was attempting to acquire satellite signal. She was lost. That was the night she decided she would learn the signs. You see, the signs is an acronym that I've used for a long time to help myself navigate the Chicago interstate systems. S-I-G-N-S. So let's start with S. Very simply, S is for start with what you know. It's a kind of an entrance ramp for us to get into this acronym learning system. Regardless of where we work or live, nearly everybody is familiar with an interstate. Start there. Give yourself some confidence. Build upon that. Second of all, the second letter is I. This is really the crux of the acronym. Imagination is the key. Use your mind. I passed out some papers there that have some maps on them, annotated in some colors. I'm a very visual learner, and I do even better if I have color with it. So this is just one example of something that I came up with to help me untangle the I-90, 94, 294, ubiquitous interstate system that these numbers pop up all the time. I think we heard one here tonight from John. I know they kind of go from Indiana and they end up in Wisconsin, but they go by different routes. Sometimes they use the same routes, and I get confused. So by color coding them, I can easily draw that picture back to my mind. And I realize, oh, the yellow one, 90, goes to Rockford. I need to remember to pick that up. Just an example. You see that one segment of it is green. It's where they run together. Just a small tool that I use to help myself. Another problem I had was keeping track, the Kennedy, the Eisenhower, the Stevenson. Now I know two of these are named after some very prestigious presidents of ours. That helps, but I still get them confused. You know, they travel out from the loop. Kind of the Kennedy, of course, goes to O'Hare, the Eisenhower, and the Stevenson. I remember them with a unique name called KISS. K-E-S is the way I spell it. Kennedy, Eisenhower, Stevenson. I never forgot that. Some of these ideas are silly. I have some that are ludicrous. I have this story, if I had more time, I'd tell you the story about how Jane Addams, she left the Garden of Eden to kiss Dan Ryan. She got married by Bishop Ford. That's a different story. The thing to remember with the imagination is whatever works, works. It doesn't matter how silly it is. We've done the S, we've done the I, brings me to the G. Get to know new routes. In Chicago, I can guarantee you, due to weather, road construction, or heavy traffic, sooner or later you're going to need to know a route that you do not normally use. Learn them ahead of time. It's kind of a preemptive way to learn the new routes before you're forced into knowing them. S-I-G brings us to N. N is we need to review. We need repetition. The best way to remember something is to repeat it. That'll help you remember what you've worked out through your imagination and the new routes that you're trying to learn. Two systems I use to review are through the computer. Online aerial maps are fantastic, the clarity they give. And believe it or not, listening to traffic reports on the radio, even when I'm not in traffic, as I listen to WMAQ or W780, they go around so fast. If I can follow what they're talking about, I feel like I'm doing pretty good. It's a good way for me to repeat. And lastly, brings us to the last S, which is really more of an appeal. stop relying solely upon your GPS. It's a fantastic piece of equipment, but sooner or later you're going to forget it. It's going to run out of power. It's going to give you that attempting to acquire satellite signal at the worst time, and then you realize it really doesn't stand for Global Positioning System. It stands for get praying soon. I don't know if my daughter prayed that evening. I do know that her satellite finally got a signal with her GPS and she traveled home. I do know the next day she spent some time with me to learn the science. S, start with what you know. It's a good entrance ramp to learn the rest of it. I, imagination is the key. Whatever works, works. G, get to know new routes. Sooner or later you will need to know those. N, you need the review. Repetition is the key. And finally, S, stop relying solely upon your GPS. Mr. Toastmaster?